So that is another advice they are giving us. Don't let us touch our faces. We should learn to do this. So like I said, we have to learn to do certain things in a different manner, because the virus needs. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects or surfaces, such remote controls and doorknobs. So you see where they are taking us to. Anytime we're coming here, you will find somebody, immediately once finishes cooking, sanitizing this place for another person to come, or we ourselves sanitizing our hands. Now they're asking us that even doorknobs to our homes, and especially in offices and public places, when you are touching, you should be careful. So immediately you touch somebody, luckily for us, initially when we started, it was like we have to import masks in very large quantities. Through ingenuity and innovation, Ghanaians are now sewing our own masks. So wherever you pass around the middle of the street, people are now selling. But let us be cautious. All over the place. So why shouldn't we all wear masks? Over the weekend, I drove around town, some places, and people are wearing the masks. Meanwhile, some of us are selling the masks by the roadside. And it is not very, very, very expensive. But I know, even if it's 1 cedi, some of us will not have money to buy. So those of us who have a little extra, more than 1 cedi, when you buy one with your 2 cedi, buy one for your next neighbor. That has been the Ghanaian way of life. We support each other. And I'm pleading with companies, organizations, begging for, use some to buy the mask. Some cannot be worn on several occasions. We call them disposable. When you wear it and you take it off, you throw away. Not many of us can wear that one. But the ones we are sewing in Ghana, they are reusable. When you wear, you can reuse it. But before you reuse, you take it off even after you have come back from town or wherever you went. You have to wash it, disinfect it, iron it, before you wear again. And you can continue to wear on several occasions. So if you have 2 or 3 maximum, you can wear for the next 1 month. Just the 3, unless of course it gets tough. That we can protect ourselves and we can also protect others that we may get close to. So those of us who our work makes it compulsory for us to be in public places, market women, bank officials, where people are coming to you. Civil servants are for us to continue to wear masks wherever you are. Can you? So God wants to tell us that don't go and sit somewhere and sit and drink beer and drink alcohol. So you have the mask, then God will be comfortable with you because you're going to drink. So let us learn to wear mask. It is very, 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 very important. Now it looks like daily magic to avoid the spread, to cut the spread. One of them is the mask wearing, and we should learn to do that. I have talked about social distancing, but especially when people are sick, we have not tested, they have taken sample waiting for results. Don't let us get very close to them. Stay home if you are sick. I've said earlier on that even if you are not sick, stay at home. So if you even get sick, that is when you shouldn't come out at all. We call it self-isolation. You can call your doctor when you develop fever, you are coughing, or you have it very difficult to breathe. If you develop these symptoms, please try and make a call of a way to get to the closest CHIP compound or health center or a hospital that is close to you, and let them see if you are getting close to show the symptoms that will, when they get your contact, they will come to you to try to find out how you are doing. And they will take your sample to be sure that you haven't contracted the disease. So allow them to let them come into our homes for our own protection. Last 4 days or so, the Director General told me that some of our young people doing contact tracing have been sacked when they went to some place in Jamestown or Bukom. Please, they are coming in our own interests. So if you see them, and there is one of us amongst you there will be a problem. So allow our contact tracing teams access to you. If they invite you on telephone, please pay heed to it and get to them. They come to your house, treat them nicely, and let them come and take your sample so that we all stay away from these diseases. The last thing I will say is that if any one of us wants to contract the disease and wants to die voluntarily, the rest of us don't want to die. So don't bring your death to join us. So don't think that you're protecting only yourself. By adhering to these protocols, you are helping all of us. So it is not your choice. It should be our choice, all of us together. So help us to live together and survive the coronavirus. Let me thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that at this elaborate and extensive discussion, I've engaged the information minister is sacking me from the podium because of time. Don't let him labor in vain. Don't let our president labor in vain. Don't let task force you have set up labor in vain. Don't let the doctors and all the healthcare labor in vain. God will not bless you if you help us to go that way. I thank you so much. Can I speak a little bit of tree? But I can't speak Ghana. And my tree is bono. Nobody understands bono, so I'll try. DJ is telling me, no. When you do the man, you see what we do to you. I was for me someone. None of them may be Jahay. Me person me can't. Doctor no say my ya me can be no. Say yenya do say ye de ne kosro. Man panyin time bi obeka be o kika nsem bi aye ni so. Yare no ye abate. Ebe traso a we ase nyina anya Ghana nko a wo ye ni mbre bebre. Eni adro yeti ye kakra Ghana fo no onku ye kese. Nipa nkura benya bi no benyare kese. Nso hu aboye nyina na ye ntimi ntina humsa. Eze sefra asenya hokoduro. Kwana ebe fa so bia ma ye so no. One ne yahobo so no. Mampanyini da bi okasa okana na okamfi kakra. So ni bibi pa ohia kese se na bontina. Nkwa bontine stay at home. Mesremo a siamfa wo ya anya adwuma. yen nyina nya yare no bi enti mesrem atu na doctors no de my mampanyini kasa wo ka no mo me fanye adwuma se woni bibi ya ehia kese power abontina nkwa abotene samre wei ehia se me kosra maame kosram nana fa telephone free no chia no ti no should go to visit nobody it's a ehia pa kese say yeko afi yansa hohoro no esrem a yeko school yen kra no be kire se hohoro yansa ye fasa nka ho be kire TV so ne be kan radio so esrem a se be ya bia hohoro ne sampem bebre oko be fi odu kwara no a jinso hohoro nsa nrungu ba bia ejina ho manso na etene ye fa gu nsa so mra hohoro nsa kama na fi watumi awura ho baby be the social distancing and the professor. Trasio, ye jina ho, yentiti yentem, sebe ya wasa, nte so efiri numba no, bionka oyonko. Enti yentem titi no de hia pa, because yare no Ghana ha sei, mo kai ba Eastern region de no, nipa be ya du no miensa, be nyina beti faako, ba kan bom, yare no kan ba ko no, obi anya. Sebe titi yentem, nke bia amanisa. And very necessary. Nti so be about so tin stop when say red light, say crash and slow, pinwachi kakra. Enye ntokwa na yeko. Yes ati da bia anhia ne yonko se yenyina ya tiase. Ehia se be keka bobo na yemfa no nya adwuma na yare no free so. Ei kwana yare no faso etimba eso no ba ko ne se be gina hei yare no bitar ha ba bi. Na mensa kan Peja de komani mpe media yare no bi enti wanim yo hina ntiti nya wani fansa nki fa wani pisa Dr. Fra kan say yem pisa yani mfansa nki hna no anya sa ne bi da ba bi no aka ebeka wo so don't put your hand in your face mfansa nko wani mkwa afi ba bi bro ho atem bia say disinfect spray do disinfectant eso so do ma punum special offices yen wipe ya pu sanitizers ni ade bia ampe sanitizer ambere no se be ya also punuma obeye sanitizer wonsa wokusa obeye sade no na fei enya ahoni die papa ya ye adwuma afi ni aba ne se we no abe no binum kan nose mask binum kan face mask binum kan chin mask etse se kata yanim ya no ne ye hene no bia kukuru ne da aboa betimi afa ho na yebedi ye dia babo ntene eno de esese ye compose mai mesem a bibi ba ko pa wo hia se yo ne se be hye no smack no nanu ya ansan na wo tue bai memre da no kuda no fida no nyina Unam Nkrumah nipa no bebre ben hyade no se nyame ya adom ye mfa mfira ma no ne ba ye pam ne Ghana ha ya FDA for I register companies bebredun obi e pam bi binom pam ne fi standard no FDA beba be kire kwana ye fa so ye yade no se bia benya papa no bi e de ahyena no ne bo anya dine bebre so ni sika kura 1 studio 2 studio 3 studio sro yo se nnuan sro bom kakra binom be stress sika ko botot anamboa be stress sika ko botot enti so stress sika ko tomaska eniguase bia nim afemese companies no mo adwuma fo no mo aye nua sebe ye di bi no na yenya bi emfa ntitaria no afei dwamfo ma mesemu wo awo dwam ho awo ni bi no wo hwe ya na se be ma police for abakrum esese anyina bi ahye bi driver for ba be ka taxi uber petrol ono meti nyina company passenger be fro car no ni bi amfa no na yenhwe se sade we yet be adwuma omia se we ntini ya police for akoche yonko na odroko to prison enye necessary ti enya somre na ne doctor for na se yam kanche bia no nye no mumie ni so because no anti doctor futu a o ye de uwu nti ye adwuma se be ya yare bia ema no ask no bi o ho a o hye ba kwa o hye bi ye totwene ni ayeso ye pam ne Ghana ha no ntuma ne de utumi si esa na hye timi si tan de hye ho na ni sie num no se so di aduro egu so num so share kakra semna kupuko usinu kama uwi afa iron to so ansa no be hye bi ma wa hye bia anje ne yonko de nhye ono de socialism bia ne onum nti o de ya o de to have make sure say o ba o unia o bi de nkofra ne yonko just keep to yours na yonye adwuma na yare no ntumi free so enko megiri se di decide we so a yare na ntre biem ye benya ahoto na huna abaye mu no ne nyina afiri ho ne yetumi akoya sori yetumi ayi yetumi ayi bibia ye pese ye medam wase bebre.
Honorable Minister, thank you for your presentation. Charity, you are on gloves, so when you finish, just take the sanitizer to him and then let him, because he was touching with you all over, even during his presentation. But Honorable Minister, thank you for your presentation, the passion with which you make the case that we need to observe personal preventive etiquette. It is the third layer that protects us. The first one is the closure of the borders. The President has done that for us. The second is the restrictions on gatherings. Whether it's schools or social or religious gatherings, the President has, by executive instrument, done that part for us. The third layer, which we have to do for ourselves, is the personal preventive etiquette. As Minister has been explaining, we're observing that there are some that are still refusing to protect themselves even after the state has done the fair for us. And that's why we're spending time to make that case this morning. Now, aligned to that is the specific subject of the masks, the nose mask or the face masks. I don't like calling it the chin mask because there are those who just put it under their chin like this. They are wearing a mask. If you do this, you are not wearing a mask. It is supposed to cover both your nostrils and your mouth, because those are the two principal areas of entry of this virus into your system, in addition to your eyes. So it's not a chin mask, it's a nose and a mouth mask, which some describe as a face mask. I want to invite Dr. Boajeda for the next about 5 to 7 minutes to take us through the guidelines on the wearing of the masks, and then I will invite Mrs. Mimi Datson of the Food Drugs Authority to just share with us some small guidelines for those also making their masks at home, what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is helpful, not helpful. We're spending time to deal with this in the first part of our brief because the state is doing the first two, closing the borders, imposing restrictions. The third one is our responsibility, which is observing the personal preventive etiquette, including the wearing of masks. Dr. Foster, we have some 5 to 7 minutes. Please join me.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. All protocols observed, but my health minister has done extremely well by educating us on masks. Now, following the President's directive of the wearing of the face masks, the Minister of Health, by the Public Health Act, also made this mandatory. And we from the communication unit, together with FDA and all some stakeholders, came up with a national guidelines for institutions and organizations to follow. So I'll be taking us through, actually I'll be providing some education, then I'll take us through some of the benefits and which institutions or individuals that are supposed to wear the masks, the do's and the don'ts of wearing the masks. So if we say a mask, one will ask, what is a mask? It is a face, it is an accessory that you wear over your face to help prevent the spread of the virus or other germs. So in this case, we do have types of masks. We have the disposable and the disposable surgical and medical masks. we have the N95, and we have the cloth mask. Now, my minister made a very important point, which I want to stress. Wearing of the mask is not to replace preventive measures or the social distancing. It is actually to support it. So it means that we are to wear the mask, observe the social distancing, and also for the preventive etiquettes like washing of hands with soap and running water. When sneezing and coughing, you use tissue to cover your mouth. Then disposal of the tissue is also very important. So you dispose it in a bin and you cover it appropriately. Now, let's look at the benefits of using a face mask. There is evidence to show that using a face mask can slow the spread of coronavirus. In our context, it is cheap, and the FDA has actually come up with companies that are producing. The mask protects us all, since there may be people in the community with the virus who are not showing any signs. Now, we certainly know that even from our positive cases, some are not showing symptoms. So it is very, very important to wear the mask. The mask also helps to reduce stigma. Why? Because we are all wearing the mask. So there is nothing like segregation or discrimination. We are all wearing the mask. Now, let's look at wearing the mask itself. To offer effective protection against COVID-19, masks must be used in combination with frequent hand washing with soap under running water, use alcohol-based hand sanitizer, and physical distancing. They must be worn properly and frequently. Do not try masks on when you are buying it. It is very important not to try masks on when you are buying it. Do not take off masks when you are talking. When you are drinking or eating, remove the mask appropriately and wear it afterwards correctly. Now, I'll take you through the procedures of wearing the mask, which is very important. First, you wash your hands with soap and running water, or you use alcohol-based sanitizer. After you finish that first step, you place the mask over the bridge of your nose. Then you fit tightly but comfortably against the sides of the face. Then place elastic bands behind your ears or tie the ropes around your head. So you stretch the mask downwards, you stretch it downwards to cover your chin. Allow for breathing without restriction. Avoid touching the front of the mask, because it is already, when you talk, it contaminates. So you do not have to touch it. So replace the mask with a new one as soon as it is wet, and wash after use. Remember, using a mask is only effective if proper hand washing and social distancing is ensured. Now let's look at how to remove the mask. Again, you clean your hands with soap under running water, or you sanitize your hand with alcohol-based sanitizer. Only touch the ear loop or ties or the band, these ones. Then remove the elastic band or if it is the one that the rope, you tight it from behind and remove it. Now, how do we care for the masks, the cloth masks? Cloth masks should be routinely washed depending on the frequency of use. Immediately cloth mask is removed, put it in a bowl of warm, soapy water. Wash it well until clean, rinsed under running water, and dry the mask in an open sun. Then once it is dry, iron the mask and put in a plastic bag ready for use. If you notice any damage or change in shape, it is time to change it. Now let's look at the surgical and the N95, how to dispose the mask. Dispose of all used masks immediately in a closed bin or burn it in a safe place. Wash hands with soap under running water, or rub with an alcohol-based sanitizer. Let's look at some don'ts. Do not use the same mask for more than 12 hours at a time.
That is if it's a surgical or N95.
Yes, if it is a surgical or N95. Do not use single surgical mask or N95 more than 8 hours. So that is for the use, the procedure for wearing, moving, and disposal of the mask. Now let's look at the mandatory use of the mask and what we expect companies and organizations to do. Following the public health directive by the health minister, it is now mandatory for organizations to make sure that their staff do wear the masks in confined places, and also obviously at some point, regardless, the world will open up. So we are also thinking aloud. So for workplaces, we are saying that, for example, all health workers, including temporary workers and patients attending a health facility such as clinic, hospitals, and pharmacies will have to wear the masks. All public sector workers, including temporary workers and visitors visiting public sector offices, will have to wear the masks. All private sector workers, including temporary workers and visitors visiting such facilities, will have to wear a mask. We are saying that all persons in public and commercial centers and facilities and buildings will have to wear a mask. All frontline media staff and people visiting media premises, including reporters in confined offices or studios, will have to wear a mask. For schools, we are saying that all teachers, lecturers, and workers in universities, colleges, and other tertiary institutions will have to wear a mask. All people, students, and all staff in primary, junior, and secondary high schools will have to wear a mask. All students and staff in vocational and all other training institutions will have to wear a mask. We have one for public transport. All commercial vehicle drivers and attendants and passengers on all forms of public transport, including transport operators, passengers, that's the buses, VIPs, state transport, GPRTU, they will have to wear the mask as well as observe the social distancing. And they will also have to provide in buses a polythene bag so that when someone sneezes and coughs, the tissue will be disposed in that bag. So for minibuses, trotro drivers and mates and passengers, for taxis and other vehicle operators such as Uber, Bolt, Yango, and the others, for truck and cargo car drivers and operators, they are all supposed to wear masks. For domestic airlines, all domestic airline staff and passengers on board will have to wear a mask. All airport staff and visitors to the public, to the airport and its offices will have to wear a mask. For marketplaces, hotels, and shops, sellers or traders and people going to the markets, roadside traders, KIAs, food vendors and sellers, restaurant operators, sports arenas, spas, bars, workshops, barbers, hairdressers, shopkeepers will have to wear a mask in their daily activities. For churches and mosques, all persons presiding over or attending church services, mosques, or other places of religious worship will have to wear a mask, including the priest. Wearing and removing of the masks, that's what I've done. So I think for that one, I will say that aside the masks and the social distancing, the preventive etiquettes are still very, very important. Thank you.
Sanitizer. Dr. Aboajida Costa, thank you for your presentation. And just to put it in context, you would notice that there are some things that he talks about that are under restrictions currently, sporting activities, religious activities. These guidelines have been done generally on the assumption that whether or not these restrictions exist, this is what you have to do when using a mask. So just to be clear, these restrictions have been done on the assumption that whether or not these restrictions exist, these guidelines are populated on the assumption that whether or not the current restrictions exist, this is how you use a face mask or a nose mask. I just want to reiterate that there are 3 levels or 3 layers of protection. First is the closure of the borders. The state has done that. Second is the restriction on gatherings. The state has done that. The third is the personal preventive etiquette, which includes the wearing of the mask. The mask is not a substitute to the personal preventive etiquette. They go together. And Dr. Da Costa and the Ghana Health Service have spent some time giving us the guidelines. We're going to post these guidelines on the Ghana Health Service website and on the Ministry of Information website, as well as our social media handles at the Ministry of Information. We're also going to put this on our press pool platform, so colleagues in the media can help us to do some more dedicated public education on the wearing and the using of masks as part of the preventive etiquette, not as a substitute, but as part of the preventive etiquette. Now, as was mentioned, you can also make your own masks at home. What are the guidelines you have to observe? Very quickly, Mrs. Mimidan is here. She's Chief Executive of the Food and Drugs Authority. She will share with us some remarks. Maybe let them sanitize my podium and then you can join us. When she's done, we'll talk about testing. How far have we come with our backlog? What's the latest, the RDT options, and how are we going to get some daily numbers, in addition to our management and other related matters?
Thank you very much. The FDA has actually developed standards for different types of masks. These include the normal face mask. We even have surgical masks, and we even have an N95 quality. So some of the ones that the local manufacturers are manufacturing actually N95 quality. We developed the requirements with the Ghana Standards Authority, and you find these on both our website and the Ghana Standards Authority website. Currently, we registered over 41 manufacturers of face masks as at yesterday. And this excludes even the bulk ones that were done by the Ministry of Trade, which have been supplied to various ministries. Yesterday, we also met with the Garment Association, the executives of the Garment Association, to ensure that they can also disseminate this information to all the seamstresses who are part of that association. I know people would like to make their mask at home. And what we say is that when you make a reusable mask at home, you may give some to your friends, you may make it for your family. Make sure you are doing it in a clean environment. Make sure that whatever fabric you decide to use, you will stick to that fabric after you have brought it to us to test. And we would prefer it if you brought it to us to test, ensure that the performance is good. And that whoever's sewing the mask, make sure that you yourself are dressed properly. You cover your nose, you make sure that you wash and sanitize your hands before you start sewing. You don't want that contaminated before you even give it out. When you come to the FDA, we normally say, please bring the mask to us test, but maybe you can't. So what we do test at the FDA is that ensure that you can breathe through the mask. I'm sure people have heard that when I wear the mask, I cannot breathe, and you've read on social media, please, you can breathe. If you wear a good mask and a mask that has been made properly, you can wear it for the number of hours and you can still breathe. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Normally, we prefer that you make it out of plain fabric. And the fabric used should be cotton or any cotton derivative, Calico, etc. I know people may want to put designs on their masks. That's acceptable. What we say is, I have one here, that we use the old FDA cloth. If you put a design on it, please make sure that the part of the mask that is on your face is plain. So you have the design in front and then inside is plain. And make sure that the material that you use for the inside of the mask is soft to the face. You don't want people taking off their masks because they are uncomfortable. What we require is that the mask should have 3 layers. So you have the outer layer that you want, you have an inner layer. We normally require maybe a medium stiffener, fabric stiffener, or a soft fabric stiffener, since it's just a face mask house. And then the inside is the plain material, because some of the fabric have dyes. And normally you are not sure which fabric has a dye. You don't want to be inhaling the fumes of a dye all the time. That's why we insist that the mask should have a plain inner layer. When you make the mask, it is actually advisable to have it pleated, because for that, when it's pleated, when you open it out and you put it on, it goes under the chin. If you can't have it pleated, I've seen many types too that fit snugly over the nose and over the chin. Don't just do a square mask so that there are holes under. If you have a face like mine that is small, the mask will not fit you and then they become useless to you. We've talked about the number of layers, either 3 fabric layers, so your outer one could be your print and 2 other fabric layers, or 2 fabric layers, plain, outer can be print, and then the middle you have a stiff. The reason is that if you are talking to somebody, there's always vapor, water droplets. It hits the first layer, gets slowed down, it hits the second layer, and then before it can get to you. That's why we recommend that you have 3 layers, or you have 2 layers and the stiff inside. It's just to actually slow down the rate of the particles touching your face. FDA is in all regions. These requirements are on our website, they're on our social media handles as well. We'll put them on the government social media handles. GSA has also put out the public available specifications also on their website. And if you have any question about nose masks, we are in every region. You can reach us also by phone or by WhatsApp, and we're on Facebook to answer your questions, and we'll be there to answer them if you need them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mimi. Because we will be releasing videos that demonstrate how to wear, how to take off, how to dispose of these masks in various languages on the Ministry of Information social media handles. You notice that now, for example, the president's speeches, etc., we release them in other languages on the handles. So please expect the videos that demonstrate the things we've spoken about today on the social media handles. I quickly want to invite the Director General of the Ghana Health Service. Before I get to Noguchi on testing matters, Ghana Health is going to give us a quick update on case count, case management, and also other health conditions that are being managed at this point in time and how they are faring. When they are done, I'll quickly invite Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Nsia Sari, to give us a quick update on how much more we know about the dynamics of the virus here in Ghana. Remember, we've said that this is a science and data-driven exercise. We've tried to learn and know as much as possible to inform our decision-making, and he'll give us an update on how much we know currently about that. Dr. Patrick Abaji.
Thank you very much and good morning. I also stand on existing protocol. Ladies and gentlemen, as at now, we have recorded 2,019 cases across the country. This covers all the cases that was diagnosed since the first case was identified on the 12th of March. Since the last updates, we've had an increase of about 550 cases, and this has come out of about near 18,000 tests conducted in the last few days over the weekend, wiping out the entire backlog in Noguchi. 480 of these cases has come from 24 districts out of the 26 districts in Greater Accra. And they have come mainly from Tema, which entered about 169, Accra Metro 43, and Ashaman 41. The rest of the country presented 70 new cases. Out of these total cases, 919 have been identified from the routine surveillance, that is the people who come with symptoms and report to our facility or recall. 1,685 have been identified through the enhanced contact tracing that has been done nationwide, especially in Ashanti and Accra. The cases of quarantine which have been reported earlier still remains 115. How do they present? About 2,402, that is representing about 93.2% of the cases, are either asymptomatic or come with mild conditions. 7 are the ones that come with moderate to severe conditions. Currently, 5 have moderate conditions, nobody is critical, and nobody is on intensive care units as we speak today. Unfortunately, about 18 persons who, in addition for having COVID-19, had underlying conditions, have died. This gives us a relatively low death rate of about 0.66%. This compared to other countries in our area, we have countries like Cameroon reporting about 3.4% death rate, Nigeria 2.9% death rate. It is worth noting that at the same period, we have recorded deaths from other diseases, such as 40 cases from CSM in one region, 54 children have died from malaria at the same period. Currently, we have about 294 of the patients who have recovered after testing negative on 2 consecutive times, and we currently have more than 200 patients awaiting their second negative test so that they can also be declared recovered on discharge. One of the key areas of intervention is isolation, where people who are positive, who have symptomatic and do not have any underlying conditions are managed at home or sent to an isolation center. Currently, for our isolation center, we have 453 tents across the country in the various isolation centers. 339 are in Accra. We have 85 in Eastern region and about 9 in Ashanti. Others have a few numbers isolated currently. Last week, we want to thank UNP also donated some toiletries and T-shirts for the inmates at the place. So in all this, what is the risk? This 2,719 has come out of our 129,461 tests. 30,039 persons who have tested routine surveillance, out of which 91 cases were confirmed positive with a positivity rate of 2.98%. Of the 98,600 persons who have been tested from the enhanced contact tracing, 1,685 have confirmed positive, giving us a positivity rate of 1.71%. In all, as stated earlier, we have about 129,461 persons, and then that gives us a positivity rate, general overall, of 2.01%. This is the national picture. In the regions, we've had Eastern reporting 94 cases. After the last month was 87, and they had an increase of 7. Central region had moved from 21 to 31, 38. Most of them have come from Kaswa, from the enhanced contact tracing, and we have some from Ankafo and Cape Coast. Western region have moved from 9 to 21, mainly from Sakwadi, Sekendi, from Sekendi and Takoradi and Azim and Takwa from enhanced surveillance services. Upper West moved from 10 to 19, Volta 16 to 30, and 11 of contacts came from Ketu South, 4 cases from contact tracing of positive cases that were positive cases. Ashanti had an increase of 7, having moved from 117 to 124, and the region, Northern, Upper East, and Northeast did not make any new cases in the as at the last presentation, so they remain 19, 13, and 2 respectively. OT moved from 19 to 23, increasing by 4, and these are all coming from Kwanta North, and the West North also did not represent any case. So this comes to the total of the 550 that had been increased from the last time we presented the state of the position on COVID numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, the nature of this disease says that it has a high infection rate but low death. What it means is that this disease may stay with us, as the minister said, and that we need to be ready until we discover we have an effective vaccine. This disease is going to be with us. Despite all these seemingly high figures, which we actually searched for to be able to isolate and contain, the infection rates in this country remain low in comparison with other countries, as I mentioned it. This tells us that the measure that we have put in place, that you have also abided with, has served as well. The disease has started affecting other sectors, including the health sector. At the last quarter of our review, we have had immunization services coming down. We've had growth promotion of children coming down, antenatal and outpatient attendances are declining. If this goes on, it will have consequential effects on health outcomes in the end. Measures have been put in place that allow us to be able to provide services for you in safety, safeguarding you, so encouraging all to make access care so that we do not have another challenge on our hands because of reduced access to care. What it means is that people who are sick may not be seeking care. That is not what we want. Institutionalizing adhering to these key measures, which we'll say from the minister and all other speakers from is the new norm, such as hand hygiene, social and physical distancing, wear of masks, and proper sanitation, even without the current restrictions, must be institutionalized and maintained if you are going to contain this disease. By doing this, not only to contain COVID-19, we prevent diarrheal diseases and other emerging diseases, which all are transmitted through the same methodology. What we want to say is that being COVID-19 positive is not equivalent to death, as people perceive. And so let's try and work against stigma, encourage all people to be tested and avail themselves to be isolated and contained. I want to end this by expressing appreciation to all the individuals and corporate bodies who have supported the health sector and the country in this response. Thank you very much.
Dr. Patrick Kuma Abwaje, Director General, Ghana Health Service, give for that update. I want to reiterate just about 3 things. First of all, if you followed Dr. Abwaje Dakosa's presentation, we're asking that all public offices, buildings, public transport institute a no mask, no entry policy. All public offices, buildings, public transport, public places introduce a no mask, no entry policy. The reason is that the first 2 layers of protection, the state is doing it for us. The third level, we need a higher level of public compliance for it to be successful. That third level is the utilization of the masks. And to do that, the education being provided, as I've mentioned, which is the second point, the videos that are demonstrating it will be made available, but we need you to help us so that it works. If only 3 people are wearing the mask, it won't achieve much effect. But if the majority of the population is wearing the mask, then it achieves the effect. One of the ways to do that is that all of you out there, and all of us here, all who manage public places, whether these restrictions, the current restrictions exist or not, as was rightly mentioned, we have to ensure that we impose this no mask, no entry policy. Very finally, in the numbers you gave us, assuming we're still using the old model that other parts of the world are using, general surveillance model, what will be our numbers by now? In the numbers that you gave us, general surveillance as at now is what?
919.
919. So if we're using the old model where we were sitting and waiting and saying, if you have symptoms, come, we'll be in the Ghana's case count is at 919. But because of the enhanced surveillance that we have done, today our numbers are 2,719. The difference is what is being found out in the early surveillance numbers. That means that you find them mostly when they are asymptomatic, they don't need hospital, etc. You can give them supportive treatment, and then we can have a higher recovery rate. Okay, so we move into two final areas, and then we'll do the Q&A. Where are we on testing? Do we still have a backlog? When are we going to add this backlog and begin to have a sense of some daily numbers? Professor William Ampofo, head of virology at Noguchi, and coordinating our testing program, is here. Prof, please join me. Three things. What's the status of the clearing of the backlogs? Do you have an update on gas RDT options? And when can we start getting some daily test numbers? Your podium.
Good morning, thank you very much, Minister. With regards to the backlog, so I just cross-checked with Professor Richard Phillips of KCCR, and he has 1,982 samples awaiting testing. It was 3,500 yesterday, so they worked all night, and he expects that by Thursday, backlog will be done. Noguchi, we have no backlog. There are 0 samples awaiting testing. So, as Minister said, we should be able to provide results within 24 hours back to the Ghana Health Service when samples are received from contact tracing and also from hospital surveillance. We have expanded testing beyond Accra and Kumasi. There is testing, as you heard previously, there's limited testing in Ho at the University of Allied Health Sciences. We're expecting a donation from the International Atomic Agency through the Ministry of Health. We hope that by next week, this will be fully established, and therefore they'll be able to increase testing in Ho for the Volta region and also the OT region. As I speak, Tamale has testing established. This is at the Public Health Lab at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, and also the Veterinary Services Directorate Lab at Pong Tamale. So we also have testing covering the northern regions now available. We hope that we'll be able to get the War Memorial Hospital also testing as soon as possible. Then we currently have, as I speak, we have testing being established in the western region at the Veterinary Services Directorate Laboratory in Takoradi. This is being done in conjunction with the Public Health Lab at the Efia Quantal Hospital. So it's a joint effort, one health approach being practiced directly between the Ghana Health Service and the Veterinary Service Directorate. So that is being established, right now, and we think that by tomorrow they will also start testing in Takoradi, and that will cover the western region. We're also going to utilize the Gene Expert system, which is prevalent in almost all the health, every region of Ghana. There are specific centers that have Gene Expert machine for TB, and there's a test that has developed for COVID-19. We're hoping that by the end of next week, there will be these cassettes and also tests for COVID-19, and we hope to roll out testing in these facilities to complement the PCR stations that have been established. So by the end of May, we will have virtually every region be able to test for COVID-19. and the Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health will determine the actual strategy for testing that these sites will provide, in the response towards COVID-19. On the issue of the rapid diagnostic tests, as you heard from the FDA, both the guidelines have been put on the FDA site. Some suppliers have submitted the RDTs for evaluation. Evaluation is currently underway, and the reports will be finalized and returned to the FDA. The suppliers will be notified accordingly. The Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service will then come up with appropriate guidelines that utilize the RDTs for surveillance. The PCR will remain for clinical diagnosis, and then we'll be able to fashion out the appropriate approach to use these RDs alongside the PCR, which is direct detection of the virus. I think you've heard that there's been a local development where the KNUNC has developed the RDT. This is being submitted through the FDA, and as soon as results are available through the FDA, KNUNC will be informed and will decide how we proceed further with locally available RDTs. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you, Minister.
Prof, don't worry, I won't charge you for the sanitizer. I won't charge you for it. But just to be clear, with the exemption of the 1,982 backlog samples at KCCR, we are now at a point where we can safely say that we have cleared a backlog of samples. Ballpark figure, how many tests have we done so far, leaving out this 1,982?
130,000.
About 130,000 tests so far. Just an outstanding backlog of about 1,982 to complete. About 2,000, let's say a ballpark of about 2,000. And once that is done, then it means we've cleared the backlog. And we're expecting this to be done by Thursday, you say? So that from Thursday on, we'll begin to have a 24-hour rolling database. That gives us an idea of what the daily infection rates, etc., that are being covered are. That's number one. Number two, the RDT options are being worked on by FDA, and when they are done, they will put out the guidelines. I think that captures the key set of views that we've discussed here. Thank you, Prof. Now to the very final brief, Dr. Nsiasare. So after about 130,000 tests, infection rates still under 2%, positivity rates still under 2%. Looking at your morbidity rates, your mortality rates, what do we know so far about this COVID-19 as it is playing out in Ghana? And as the minister is telling us, we should make up our minds that the virus will be in the world for a while, but it is lifestyle change that we need to focus a lot more attention on. How is what we are learning fitting into all of that? So, Dr. Nsiasare, please join us with a quick update on that. Let us have our podium sanitized. And then, colleagues, we'll take your questions. For those who are not here because of social distancing and have questions, you can put them on the platform, and then we'll take the questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Dr. Abuaji, the Director General, has given us the figures. Normally, when the figures come, everybody will shout. Ghana has added 503, 530 positive tests. But is it all because what we are doing is all because of the hard work of our frontline workers? Especially when I sleep, I pray for those who are in the labs. To do 130,000 tests within the short period of about 8 weeks. Of only, initially there were 2 labs, but now we have 4 labs, Prof, isn't it? So we should encourage them. In fact, we should do what the countries do, that maybe at every 4 o'clock we all come out and clap for about 5 minutes for them. This is what people are breaking their backs to do 24 hours a day. They are all working 24 hours a day. And this is the good thing that they are doing for Mother Ghana. I'll go straight away to what we have seen after testing 180,000 people. what is the dynamics like? What is the mortality rate like? What is the morbidity rate like? So what is the case for Ghana? And I'll go through by first telling you, Dr. Waji has told you that we have 2,719 positive cases. We have tested 130,502 cases, that's including the monthly quarantine of 1,041. So what it means that our positivity rate is 2.01%. If you look at the number of deaths, it's 18. So our figures for Africa and also for the whole world. I'll quickly tell, for example, as at 4th of May, that's yesterday, Spain had 213,435 positive cases. Out of that, 24,543 people have lost lives, which makes the mortality rate 15.63%. UK had 71,257 positive cases and 26,771 have lost their lives. Their positivity rate is Spain's positivity rate is 10.5%. UK is about 15.13%. US, the mighty US, has 1,035,353 cases and 55,337 deaths, which means that their positivity rate is about 5.34%. If you come to Africa, South Africa, who is also testing, South Africa has tested nearly about 150 or 160,000. After South Africa, we are the next who have tested in raw numbers, more than anybody in Africa. South Africa has 6,336 positive cases, and 123 have lost their lives, which means positivity rate 1.94%. Algeria had 4,295, and 459 have lost their lives, so the positivity rate is 10.69%. Nigeria has 2,388, and 85 lost their lives, so positivity rate is about 3.6%. Ghana had 2,719, and 18 have lost their life, so the the mortality rate for Ghana is 0.6%, less than 1%. If you look at all countries, in fact, the only country who have tested, and I'm sure they've tested only very few patients, that's Rwanda. We don't know whether they've tested. They have 259 and they have no death. And then if you look at a country like Liberia, they've tested 158 positive cases, 18, so their positivity rate is 11.4%. Their mortality rate, their mortality rate is 11.4%. All this I'm talking about mortality rate. Ghana's mortality rate is 0.66%. So if you look at it, has tested 466 positive cases, 24 deaths, so their death rate is 5.15%. So if you look at the dynamics, it means Ghana, in Africa, and almost in the whole world, we have one of the lowest, according to the number of tests that we have done, because we have done a lot of tests. In fact, if you don't do any tests, you won't see any positive case. There's a country who said that he hasn't done any tests. I think it was before, Malawi. And they asked why. Say because they haven't tested anybody. So what it means is that in Ghana, the dynamics of disease is quite different, even from the whole of the African sub-region. And for the whole world, our dynamics is quite different. That is because of the good measures that we put in place at the initial stages from the 15th of March till date. If you have realized, we put in limitation so that we close the borders so that we don't import. Then put in limitations, and we put in things like social distancing, we put in things like washing hands and running soap, use of sanitizer, and making sure that all social gatherings are also banned for some time. And this has given us these very good results. So the dynamics from the figures that we have is quite different from what we are seeing in other countries. It doesn't mean that we are out of the doom. If you don't continue the things that have been put in place by the leadership of this country, then it means we may go back to where the other people also are. We will continue, as the president has already been saying, we will continue to work with science and data. So from the science and data that we've seen, we've realized that the dynamics is quite different from other countries, both West Africa, Africa, sub-region, and also in the whole world. So what the minister said initially is something that we all have to abide by. If you want to be your brother or your sister's neighbor, don't go out without wearing mask. If you have nothing to do at all, don't go out. You may be in this situation that we are strong, you can have the positive case, but you will not be sick. And if you look at even the number you have, those who are well and responding to treatment, out of the 2,719, 88% of those people are well and responding to treatment either in the facilities or in isolation or at home. Somebody will ask, why is it that we have slow recovery and discharge patients? That is something we are doing in process. If you look at it, if you look at the first few cases that you have, some of them are not in the country, but I'm sure they are all recovered and discharged at wherever they are. We are gathering all these figures, and very soon we shall tell you how many people have been discharged or recovered out of, don't have the virus and has been discharged. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the dynamics of the case in Ghana. It doesn't mean that we are out of the doom. It means that we have to continue what measures we have put in place. Luckily, everybody now, a lot of people are wearing masks, which even fits the dress that they are wearing. So it's kind of a fashion show. So it has become one of our norms. It's been something that we have to live with for some time. Because the virus, as everybody is saying, it's like any of the coronavirus, like H1N1, H2N3, and all these things. We shall live with it. But what it means in Ghana is that we are lucky. We took a lot of measures early enough. So we should be very grateful to the Commander-in-Chief, the Excellency, the President, for putting in these measures, which had a lot of social and economic problems. But he took it. And we should all be part of the measure that we've taken. The fight against coronavirus is not for one individual. It's a corporate, and all of us have to join the fight. And if you join the fight, we may be going along this direction, and the dynamics may not change, but it all depends on you and me. So that's the message I want to give to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nsiasari. He is the advisor on health at the Office of the President. And if it's my understanding, please correct me if my understanding is correct, that we have a low mortality, that's 0.66%, and it is also attributed to the fact that we decided to do an enhanced tracing program, find people who are not even manifesting sickness, support them early so that they don't have to need hospital beds, ventilators, and potentially pass on. That aspect of the strategy, which many other countries are still not using, of an enhanced testing program, are still doing general surveillance, is being key in delivering the kind of results. And we're hoping that if we get people to comply, particularly with the preventive etiquette, we should not have a change in the dynamics of the virus. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, maybe let me add one. You see, this what you have been doing is now what some other countries, big countries, like UK and the US are now trying to do. Now US is now going out to trace, test, and isolate. But we saw the light as far back as 5th of March. So that's what the dynamics is. Because we put in measures to chase the virus, quench the fire, and to make sure that people are taken out when they are tested. So the beauty that we trace, we test, and isolate, and then treat. So if you do that, it means you are taking the positive out of the system. You can keep them for 2 weeks, give them treatment, and then when you test them and they are negative, you release them. So after some time, there's no positive case to infect somebody else. There will be isolated cases, maybe somebody who has come in, especially when the borders are open and somebody gets in. So this is what Ghana is doing. That's the story of Ghana. That's the story of a lot of countries who are out of the doom. For example, Japan. For example, Korea. In Germany, Singapore. And this is the best practice that Ghana is doing. And I'm sure people will come very soon to learn from us.
Doc, thank you. Colleagues, get ready for your questions. We want to wrap this up in the next about 20 minutes. Some bit of information I want to give you just we get ready for our questions. Let's set up the microphone for the questions. On Friday, April 4, 2020, President Akufo-Addo, as part of the COVID-19 response program, engaged with the leadership of Media Ghana. The group comprised the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, the Private Newspaper Publishers Association of Ghana, the National Media Commission, and the directors of state-owned media, as well as the leadership of the Ghana Journalists Association. Mr. President thanked them for their invaluable contribution, requested them to dedicate more time for experts to lead the conversations and analysis, and engage them on some of their challenges. One of two requests that was made was a request to support frontline media workers with personal protective equipment. Subsequently, the government of Ghana, acting through Ministries of Health and Information, has availed personal protective equipment to be distributed to frontline media workers to assist their work. We have made available as from today approximately 5,000 pieces of personal protective equipment. The package will be delivered to the aforementioned groups, that is GJA, Primpag, NMC, and the leadership of state media, for onward distribution to those who they consider frontline media workers, since they are best placed to identify them. Then it's hopeful that this will augment your supplies and assist you as you rise to this national call at this moment. And we thank you for your service. The Honorable Deputy Minister for Information, the Honorable Nana Amadou Kwesi will be doing that presentation to the leadership of these media that I've mentioned, hopefully later today. We have room to take your questions. Please, let's see you. We'll take them in batches of Duke, GNA, TV3, and then you're from TV Africa. So take the first three. Duke, you can come forward and then we'll take a second batch.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Selom. I work with TV3. A few things that I want to find out from our able leaders here. First of all, some samples taken of some people who claim that it's been 2 weeks, they haven't received their results, and it's having some psychological effect on them. So I want to know, does it mean that they are negative, that's why they will not be attended to, or what? Beyond that, we are told that you continue studying this pandemic and how it is working or reacting in Ghana. I want to find out, have we been able to project that there's a particular level when we get to, we'll say that our health system has been overwhelmed or overstretched, and what is that point? Also, as you mentioned, the president engaged leadership of stakeholders in the media. One of the things he said was to ensure we bring the experts to talk about this pandemic. We are
hold on. He didn't say we should bring only the experts. He said we should make more room for experts to do the analysis and the questions. Let's go on. Yeah.
So we have seen what I would call the politicization of this pandemic. So I want to know what is government's reaction to this politicization of the pandemic. Thank you.
That's from Selom, TV3. Yes, sir.
My name is Bill Bennett, and I work with Top Radio and TV, also correspond for TV Africa.
Bennett?
Yes.
Okay.
Also correspond for TV Africa Network, United States in Ohio. My question starts with the Ghana Health Service. I had found out last week, according to the U.S. Army high level biosecurity laboratory at Fort District, on last Thursday, that was April 23rd, there was a research that said that the temperature or the climatic temperatures from a region of 75 degrees Fahrenheit with humidity of 20% or over does curb spread of coronavirus. Could that be, this could also be a question, Dr. Nsiasare. Could that be a plausible clause for our spreading being limited and we not getting so high mortality rate compared to other countries?
Very quickly, where is this research coming from?
This is coming from the United States Army. This was done last Thursday, 23rd of April, from the U.S. Army High-Level Biosecurity Laboratory in Fort Detrick. This was the day that President Trump said that people could inject their bleach and
very well. Very well.
The second question has to do with testing. I'd like to find out from the Ghana Health Services. I learned that during the first initial testing, when people send their samples to Noguchi and KCCR, when they test positive, that or we do a second test. Because I have heard the Honorable Minister mention in various times that after treatment and isolation, when people test negative, we test them for a second count. Do we do the same for the left we do for the right? If that's the case...
When you say left for the right?
That the initial stages when the samples are collected, do we just do one test?
So when a sample tests positive, do we test it again to validate the initial positive test?
Yes.
As we do to validate a negative test? Okay.
And the reason behind it is that, as we heard, Tanzania has recalled that their test kits...
I get your point totally. I get your point totally. Solid. Duke, where are you? Yes, please step forward. Solid question. Duke, let's hear you.
Ms. Duke, CTFM, CTTV. First question has to do with the numbers that we have, the data that we've been able to organize and analyze so far. All over, we hear the scientists, the epidemiologists talk about a bell-shaped curve. From the data that we've analyzed since we first recorded the case March of up till now, where are we on that curve? Are we reaching our peak? Have we reached our peak? Are we reaching there any soon? When should we project that the numbers will start coming down? Secondly, when the president announced, in fact the health minister also talked about it, the local production of PPEs, there was an estimation of production of about 150,000 face masks in a day. I mean, that's our production capacity. Have we reached that? And is there a plan by government to distribute especially face masks, which is now going to be an essential to the poorest of the poor, especially looking at the challenges that the country faced during the lockdown and the distribution of food and all the issues that came up with that? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take these first questions and then we'll go for a second batch. The question of the curve, and as we've mentioned in times past, different curves that they talk about, the death curve, the hospitalization curve, etc. They didn't quite tell us which of the curves you're talking about, but I'll refer that question to Dr. Nsiasare. Is Ghana looking at a curve, and what sort of numbers will determine where we are in terms of those curve matters? So I should go to Dr. Bedisa here rather. Okay, Dr. Bedisa, I'll come to you to deal with that one. Question of testing, I'll go to Professor Ampofo. Do we do double positive tests, especially as some countries are raising questions about test kits and the reliability on those test kits? Then maybe I'll come to Dr. Nsiasare on the question of some claims that high temperatures and high levels of humidity can be a positive factor. What do we make of that one? Do we want to be happy about that, or is it something we are not looking at? We are looking strictly at the science that we are dealing with. Selom has a question. Persons who have offered samples and have not heard back after about 2 weeks, should they assume they are native? So, Dr. Boachi, I'll give that question to you. What will it mean for our health systems to be overwhelmed? Dr. Boachi, again, I'll give that question to you. And then let me take this about politicization of the pandemic, and then leave the rest to my colleagues. And I'll take it from this point. I appreciate some of the recent calls we are hearing for a de-escalation of the growing politicization of the COVID-19 pandemic and the response program Ghana is putting out. We appreciate the recent calls for a de-escalation of the growing politicization. These calls are, if you recall, with calls that we started making right here from this podium about a month ago, that it is important for the country to remain focused on the common enemy. The president has been making it in his speeches. We have to focus on the common enemy, that's COVID-19, and not on one another. Initially, when we started making these calls for an apolitical discussion of the subject, and for us to create more room for the experts to do the analysis, we were mocked. You'll recall some of the political leaders were mocking us and making all sorts of comments. At that time, some of the very respected persons who are making these calls for de-escalation of politics today, at that time they were very quiet. Because as it is, their political leaders and their candidates were championing a political agenda at the time. So they were very quiet. Now when political leaders from the government side are also now responding politically, all of a sudden they say everybody should begin to tone down on politicization. That is the truth of what has happened so far. Over a month ago, the president started saying, let us not bring politics into this, let's focus on the common enemy. At the time, some persons were championing a political agenda and they thought it was a mockery for you to even suggest it. Now, in the last about 24 hours or so, when political actors from the government side are also responding politically, now you are hearing people saying, oh, let's de-escalate the politics. The nation, in all honesty, stands a real risk of losing focus and degenerating into partisan political banter, while the real key issue of COVID-19 and managing it is relegated to the background. That's the real risk that we run, where we are going. And this risk, we started, as I mentioned, we started warning a little over a month ago. So it's important that we all not be silent when our candidate is politicizing the matter, only to speak when other people start responding politically. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Let's be honest in this country. If we don't want politics to matter like we are preaching it, when people start politicizing it, the faith-based groups, the religious leaders, the civil society organizations, the media, call it out that this is politics, let's put it aside and focus on the enemy. If you don't, the other side also has politicians. They will start politicizing it, and we will be the collective losers. And so we'll go back to prayer we prayed about a month ago, that let's focus on the common enemy, that's COVID-19, and let's put the politicizing aside. If the senior statesmen sit around with their political candidate is politicizing a matter and they choose not to condemn it, religious leaders, civil society groups, everybody say bye, then don't be surprised when political actors from their side also start responding. However, we still have an opportunity to keep our collective focus and to cut out partisanship so that we can win together. And that is that opportunity that we should take at this point in time. That will be my reaction to that question. So let me invite colleagues. Dr. Bedisa Akode, let me start with you. I think I've distributed the questions. Let me start with you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Good morning to all. I have the question on hand, the bell-shaped curve. Where are we? Indeed, the best way to assess this curve, if we are using daily case incidents, that every day, how many cases that we do record, and that put them on a chart, and then clearly you get the caseload being built, you reach a peak, and then you get to a decline, and then finally to zero. The best data for this should be the date of onset for the symptoms. If you don't have that, the next line will be the date that the various people affected, when did they report? So the date that they were seen at the facility. The next to that, which is so very close to the proxy, is the date the sample came. If you look at how Ghana started attacking the virus, waiting not to chase the virus, but then face it directly by doing enhanced contact tracing. There are a lot of people that we tested that were having symptoms. So if we are using the daily case incident with the signs and symptoms, then that will have a challenge. So clearly, the best data that we are using for this bell-shaped curve is the use of data from the date samples were tested. So where we are now, we started having a build. The first confirmed case in the country was on the 12th of March. So then those were from the people that we put together later, those that were put on quarantine. Out of the 1,030, in a short time, we had 115 of them. Those in quarantine at Accra here and also in Tamale. So we realize that with a sharp rise, and now with the cases that we are testing, clearly we seem as a country to be on top of the peak, and we are at a stage to decline. That is the observation now. The declination will depend on how we adhere to the various preventive etiquettes that have been enumerated. We are not off the hook yet, but then if we continue the way we are doing now, adhering to the various social distancing, adhering to the various individual preventive measures, wearing of masks, keeping away a distance from others, hand washing, cough etiquettes, other respiratory etiquettes. These are the things, when we do intensively, will let us come down from where we are. So responding directly to the question, where you are at the peak of the curve, yet to come down. But then the only thing to make us come down by strict adherence to the various preventive etiquettes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. The evidence of heat, high temperature will not transmit the virus, isn't it? So there's a study. Humidity. The study that is well known and also published is that the virus stays in dry, cold atmosphere. That one is known. That's the reason why in air conditioning room we say that the virus will be hanging around before it drops. But for the heat one, maybe somebody is now staying it. But you know, this virus is a new virus. So the dynamics are different, and viruses change they mutate from time to time. So people are now doing a lot of research to find out what is happening. But for heat, I don't know. If it is so, then we are all happy because summer is coming. So summer is also very hot in some places. So we're hoping that if it is true, if that's what the theory is, then we may have no transmission in the areas where the summer has come, and then we will have the transmission, especially the ones we import, going down. They can open our borders, maybe. But quickly to add into what Dr. Sarkodie said, you see, people have been talking about the curve. The curve has different parameters. All what the curve means is that are we having an overwhelmed, overstretched health system? So if you're having so many people going to hospital, then it means that it's going to overstretch the health system. If you have so many people dying, so the vertical axis sometimes is the number of deaths. It can also be number of people who are going to hospital and the number of people who are positive. In Ghana, our health system is not overstretched. As I said, about 88% of the people who are positive are well. As we speak now, for the 2,719, 5 people are in not even critical, moderate. I think as we speak now, they're already on ventilator. So we have realized that Ghana, the people that we see who are sick, who have the virus, or who are very, very, very small, most of the people that we go out searching them, they are not sick. That's why sometimes it's very difficult for us to even convince somebody to go to isolation. Because I'm not sick, I just tested positive. I have to go to work. So immediately I'm going to isolation, it means I'm going for 2 weeks and I'm going to maybe lose my income and all sorts of things. Because if somebody is not sick, it's difficult for a person to go to hospital. The most important thing, those deaths that I've seen, that's what I explained. Only 3 of them have the positive, and then we may not be able to isolate. For example, a child who died in Kolebu, we are still finding out what the associated factors are. The rest of what we call comorbidity. Comorbidity means that they have other illnesses. So if you are talking about a curve, we have to be very careful what curve we are talking about. I'm sure everybody is quoting Tony Fauci, the curve. But we have to be educated what curve we are talking about, because in Ghana, our health system so far, because of the measures we put in place, have not been overstretched. In Ghana, our health is in such a way that the mortality rate is 0.66%. Only 18 people have died. Even one person dying is very important. But if you even look at the number of people who die from malaria, you realize that people are even dying from road traffic accidents and this more than the coronavirus. Our health system, the number of people who are getting positives, yes, and somebody has explained. I think Dr. Sarkodie explained. Most of the tests that we are seeing, some of them are from a week ago. Luckily, now that the backlog has been cleared, we will then see daily cases coming, and they can then plot a curve. We've also been looking at the figures to see if you can take the day that the sample was taken to also see how many in a week, how many people tested positive. We can also have some bar charts and then see if we have reached the peak or not. But I'm sure that when you do all this, we will then tell you later on whether the peak has been passed or reached. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Abwaji is going to join us with answers from the health service to the questions. And then Professor Ampere would.
Thank you very much. I think part of my question has been also answered by Dr. Siansari. That is whether our hospitals are overwhelmed. I think in my presentation I mentioned that of the cases we have, only about 7% represent with moderate to severe condition. That will mean that they may need some care. But that, overstretch also depends on your capacity as a country in terms of the number of cases we have. Currently, we are not there. We have not been actually been able to increase that, and our cases on admission remain stable and sometimes even decline. Now that many more people are recovering, we are having more people leaving the facility. So that is not an issue that's worrying us. In terms of people having their samples taken and not getting their results, yes, I think there have been some initial challenges of relaying information back to them. The initial surge was the fact that positive was the main case, so I can assure that anybody who is positive has been looked for. It's possible that those who are not negative are the ones that probably will make strong efforts to reach them. But we've also instructed our district directors to ensure that anybody they have their results, they must let them know. And so I think the main surge at the initial stage was that we need to identify positives and isolate, and so that may have been the issue. I just want to use this opportunity to also appeal to people that in all this effort, those in isolation, who do not have any asymptomatic cases, who we have to isolate, it's a very critical step in our fight. We urge all opinion leaders in the communities to encourage people who are isolated, and until they are isolated, they may transmit it to their neighbors or their friends or their loved ones. So please, we should ensure that we encourage the people, they are taking good care in the isolation centers. They want to make sure we are able to get that. That will finish the proper 3 T's that we are trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ampere. And then after Professor Ampere, we'll take a final batch of questions. We have just about 7 minutes to wrap up.
So the question was about whether a positive is single test or a negative is single test. Yes, but in that single test is a series of quality control steps that we do. To go back to the kind of sample that is taken. Swab is taken from the throat and the nose. When we have swabs, we were taking 2 samples from the nose and the throat, combining them to make 1 sample. Then we shifted to sputum. So that was the sample that was used. We also at some point in time used the nasal lavage. We would put saline into the nostril and then blow it out and then add that to swabs. So we've used a combination of samples. The best approach is to have a nasal swab, a throat swab, and sputum all together and then test that. For those who test positive, the protocol is to monitor them and to test after I think about 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, And then you have the first negative test to do another test again within 24 hours or 2 days or 3 days. So 2 consecutive negative tests then enable you to declare the person as having cleared the virus. We do have some situations where people have tested positive, and when the second test has been done, within 10 days, they seem to have cleared the virus. So again, another test is done, and they have been declared as negative for the virus. Now, I have to explain again that this is PCR test. PCR means polymerase chain reaction. So we are looking for the direct presence of the virus. So we use a couple of, what we call a molecular method to amplify the smallest material of the virus to see if it is present in the person. So the quality of the sample also has a bearing on the outcome of the test. So I hope that is clear. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a final batch, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the final batch, 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's be very quick, because our colleagues have to cut feed and go for their midday news bulletin. So let's be very quick. And now we have questions on the platform. Let's take them quickly. Social distancing observed. Questions on the platform. Let's be quick.
In Ghana, many people die who don't have autopsies carried out to determine the cause of death. Our Muslim brothers and sisters bury their dead within a matter of hours. If so, if some deaths go unreported, how do we know whether or not they are related to COVID-19? How many frontline workers have been infected with COVID-19? There's another question that says, please, will the government go in for the herbal medicine the Madagascar government says cure COVID-19? And then there's a final one which says the production of face masks has been localized with informal economic actors being very active. Who is monitoring to ensure quality? Thank you.
Mimi, I'll give you the question on monitoring of quality for those who are doing home-based production. Madagascar treatment, are we looking at it? Tabwaje is a case management question. How many frontline workers? That's also referred to Ghana Health Service. And the first question about autopsies, again, I'll bring to you. And are you worried about the fact that there could be persons who don't report but pass on, and how does that affect this? Very quickly, these final questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. So we talk about stigmatization, and we've been advised to educate the public to stop it. Some have said that the way the whole pandemic has been handled has been the cause, because it's like at the initial stages there was some level of secrecy and they didn't want people to know who's been positive and all of that. So I want to find out. Yesterday, for instance, we were told some people have been declared negative at Calico, and they were asked to go out and be ambassadors. Are we going to change the strategy so that if somebody is positive and it's a known person, we can let that person do a video and tell us like they did in the forest?
Will the state be mandatorily naming positive cases? No. Will we stop somebody who has a positive record from openly announcing it? No.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then apart from that, when you look at the map on the Ghana Health Service website, it looks like across over 2,000 cases is situated around Ga East. I want to know, is it that the people resident there, or it is because of the isolation center at Ga East? That's why.
Is the data on the map, and I have to be very careful with our questions so that we don't create a wrong impression. Is the data on the map talk about where the patients are currently, or is it about where the samples were picked from? Yes. Thank you. Colleagues, let's keep the questions tight and straight to the point so that we can answer.
I'm Guma from JH1 TV. I'll make my question very brief. So our masks, after we've used and disposed them, how are they completely disposed? Where do they end up? That's my question.
Which one?
House masks. Yes. After we have used and disposed it, where do they end? How are they completely disposed of?
I don't understand the question. As in like surgical ones, the ones used in the hospitals,
yes,
or yours?
And also mine, after I've disposed it.
After you have disposed of your mask?
Yes. Where does it end up? Comparing it to plastic waste. Okay.
As in, does it just form part of the normal risk chain? And could it have consequences? I think I understand you now. Who will deal with that one for us? Okay, thank you very much. I think I now get your question. Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Maxwell. I work with JoyNews. I'm quite excited that we're able to clear the backlog at KCCR, but I want to ask, in a situation where we'd have to wait...
No, we have cleared the backlog at Noguchi.
No.
At KCCR, we have... At KCCR, 1,982 to finish.
Exactly. So what I'm referring to is actually the backlog at KCCR.
Okay.
In this situation where we'd have to wait for a longer time for the results of that backlog to come in, there are concerns that in our case, a lot of people are asymptomatic. If you have a potential positive case sample sitting at KCCR and this person is not isolated and treated, then we are likely to have a surge, in positive cases later. I don't want to know how we intend.
So when we take a sample, do we give any advice or guidelines to ensure that that person is potentially positive? Exactly. It's not just mixing up with the general population.
My second question is, we've repeatedly talked about how science and data is going to drive the decisions that we make. I want to find out from the Presidential Advisor on Health that looking at the surge of cases that we have in the hotspots in the Greater Accra region, East region, and Ashanti region, does the data and science back or call for stricter measures? Thank you.
When you say stricter measures, it's a concept. What do you mean?
Maybe another lockdown in these hotspot areas.
Okay. I think I can quickly answer that one for you. The President announced it himself that if observations suggest that the preventive protocols are not being respected in a particular district, or there is a surge in a particular district, you recall his speech. He says lockdown and curfew in that particular district. So I think it's a matter that has been dealt with. Let's take the final one and let's...
My name is Ampere. I work with Atinka TV. I want to speak in Tree. And probably if my questions will be answered in Tree, I would like it.
Okay.
Concerning the rate of death.
You are speaking English.
Rate of death now, please. You would break down in Bumukakra. Now, first, now you say, oh, okay, Emerapa and Kokra, and then you see, I say, you caught okay. You say, Imanti, and Kokra,
but you bet to me provide ihumu and answer you bet to me a many party I say Oma no say man na mema mpani na kwala na say sa you know wha emrepamu bet to me dey to abontin man hu e bia ne uni wa ha say but ya dey promu ne bet to me dey to abontin na mboa.
Okay. Now say foreign nationals so can
okay. Okay.
And the chat also say yare no strong echo. You see who say you can say academics who be any and I say it is
who be any man I said
say who be any you die and
there be oda and na bon ho ban and only command pay dia say bon ho ban. Colleagues, let me invite you. We have run out of time already, so as quickly as possible, provide answers. Dr. Nsiasa, you first. I'll go to Dr. Boaje, Dr. Bedusa, and Prof. Then we'll wrap up.
Also, be a born home by. Times they will be an say, and near my dear good Quemono. This overborn home by a bra, Arabi. Now, the important woman is fire random comma. Me and also papa na so na will be ofie and also nua bia or yare ofie tina so da no kata ukata wani ba ko no bi ba ko na hwe so obi bo mark na wa ka kire no so bi twem no ahohoro ne nsa no wa ka kire no da na yi ya bompa ya magana. The second one is about the disposal of especially disposable face masks. In fact, something which worries some of us. We spoke to them when they were doing the protocols and then the guideline, because you see this, any mask that anybody wears is a potential infected, that let's take it as potential infected material. So we should not behave like we behave with polythene bags, and this is something that we have to work on a country. That's why we've been preaching that when you finish using the mask, it's better you put it in something and then tie it. And if possible, until the time that we get a place where we can take all the mass and go and be incinerated. We can also do a small incineration in your house or dig a pit and put it in and cover it. Don't allow your children at home to be playing with the mask. So that's the message I'll give you. And as you said, the science and data, Honorable Minister has answered it. We will allow science data to follow us anywhere we go. So areas where I've seen, for example, if you look at Eastern region, what we saw at the camp, there was a problem. We sent people there and they are doing massive contact tracing. We've now seen also another one at Western North. There are people there doing contact tracing and taking the samples and testing. And the most important thing is that immediately we also try to isolate. The testing and isolation is very, very important. You isolate them from the community. And then when you do that, you are chasing, not that you are chasing the virus, you want to take the lead on the virus so that you don't spread it on this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Patrick Abadi.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Maybe I mentioned yes, so that name since I show who see say a human no numbers no cost if say ya coffee nipa na omo say baby you ma free system no mu ndi any can say bo hu pi name was obiaye ne a o se be ya wa wo bibia no onfa nya obi see any can say numbers no ehunu hwan pi stigmatization. Under our healthcare system, you don't just mention names of people. This still remains a healthcare, even though it's a pandemic. Listen, so we're not going to share names of people, but the minister said anybody who wants to declare himself, just like someone offered to do video on our behalf, we will use them. But currently, we are working very much to destigmatize this issue, and it's something that we all want to know. You also asked a question about, you saw a map that's to concentrate on Ghana East. But if you're looking at the district, Ghana East is not one of the places where you have a lot of, there's a treatment center there. But that's not where samples are taken. It's recorded based on where samples are taken. People were zooming to see people's homes, that's why we had to work on the map so that people don't see which home the GPS coordinate is coming from. So if you may see it concentrate around it, doesn't really mean that that is the place where the sample testing protocol has been answered. And I think those are all that I can also add.
Colleagues, this is what time we'll ask for today. Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Thursday morning at 9 a.m. we would go live with the latest updates as we have it, which means we will get here before 9 a.m. like we did today, and then we'll go live. I wish I could say thank you in language. It's like this. Okay, so thank you to you all. Thank you.
It's about 8 minutes after 11. That's our live coverage from the Ministry of Information. The briefing on our COVID-19 update started from 9 a.m. My name is Mama Viosa Abwaje here with my colleague Winston Amwa. We've had the Minister of Health. We've had the Director General of the Ghana Health Service. Also Professor William Ampere, who is Head of Virology at the Noguchi Institute Medical Research. We're going to run you through. We've also had the advisor on health at the presidency. We will run you through some of the things that have been talked about. 3 key points: guidelines on mask progress, also on the testing plans as well. And then there's a third area of surveillance and case management. We also had the FDA boss also pass through on face mask and what the FDA is doing. So Winston, let's begin first of all with the Minister of Health, Kwekwa Jimamenu, who talks about the fact that the virus will be with us for a long time, advocating and stressing on lifestyle change. The tone, the way he started, spoke for quite a long time. What's your understanding of the way he came out today?
Also, Mamavi, the Minister of Health came out today basically to let all of us know that, look, these are trying times for us, and this is something that's going to be with us for a very long time. Now, the minister came in, and like he stated, he was just speaking to us. Also because for some people, they're thinking that this whole COVID-19 thing is just like a scam. It's something politicians are engaged in just to ensure that, you know, they rip the country off. And I was telling you off that on Sunday, somebody walked up to me and said, okay, so you're a journalist. Is it true that there is coronavirus in Ghana? And I was shocked. For someone to actually walk up to you and say, is it true there's coronavirus in Ghana? Reminded me of what Dr. Augustina Silverken of the KCCR had said. The fact that we seem to be informing a lot of people, but we are not educating them. So people hear all of these things as information, and they don't know why they're supposed to do the things that we've asked them to do. And so I can understand the health minister. Look, truth is COVID-19. He talks about how Ghanaians are still testing positive for H1N1, and the fact that there's actually coronavirus in Ghana. I mean, we're calling this one the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, because there's an older version of it, if I could put it that way. And people are also testing positive for that one. So all that he came out to do this morning, and for me, it is something that our leaders should have told us long ago. And the health minister has done what we had been expecting to be told for a very long time. The fact that there is a new normal, we can no longer go about our lives shaking hands with everybody like we used to do. We can no longer go about our lives without washing our hands consistently, and nose mask or face mask would become the order of the day. Yes, you can understand. I mean, you can raise questions about the tone. The tone sounded like it was a bit, harsh and all of that, but it also sounded of one of desperation, one who thinks that I'm putting in a lot of effort, but people seem to be joking about all of this thing. So then he gets to the point that he says, for some people, maybe you want to die voluntarily, but even if you want to do, make sure that you go alone. And that comes to that will take us to the point of...
Which is impossible, I mean, around this period.
Exactly, so that's the situation. So if you think that you do not need care, be mindful of the person around you. It's clearly an indication that if you contract COVID-19, you are likely to infect others. So why don't you prevent yourself from contracting it?
Let's link that with the revelation that about 54 children have died from malaria. So whilst we've been dealing and concentrating on coronavirus, there's reduced access to care, immunization, antenatal, and outpatients all declining. That revelation being made by the director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abuaje.
Yes, I see it in two ways, because there are instances when once the figures keep coming up, you see lots of people engage in conversation, and there's that usual sarcasm, sometimes in relation to the fact that we probably could have done well with this if we had still continued having a lockdown. From one point of view, what I see is that, so we are being told that, okay, so you know what? COVID-19 is not as bad as we see it, because malaria has killed 54 people over the period. CSM has killed more than 40 persons. But it's also because we are, taking all our attention to COVID-19. And right now we're telling people that, even if you have certain signs and symptoms, don't be in a hurry to rush to the hospital. Earlier, we would have just quickly rushed to the hospital with the least sign of feeling unwell. Now you're told, give a call, and then once you call, people would be able to attend to you. So then what I get from all of this is that there's a realization that we need to spread how we tackle other things. We just don't have to focus on COVID-19. People should also now begin to engage in the rapid testing for malaria. And so if you test and you have your malaria parasites in your system, you could go for the ACTs, they call them. Yes, so that you're good to go. But it's only an indication also to show that there are a lot more things that are causing people to die. And so if you have 18 persons dying as a result of COVID-19, it's not the best, but it's something that we can live with.
But you can understand why people are not quickly going to the hospitals, because initially the message was stay at home. If you're not feeling well, instead of go straight to the facility, try and call. Because we've heard in other countries where people got the disease because they went out there to the hospital. Somebody goes to give birth, for instance, with no COVID, but then comes out later with COVID, and so the person is detained. There's a certain fear that the hospital is not as safe. Do we need another kind of communication to say to people that, listen, the hospitals are safe. If you're not well, get yourself into a facility?
Well, certainly, you know that the symptoms of malaria, there's fever, there's cold, there could be cough, and it's similar to the symptoms of COVID-19 also. And that is why you advise that when you have these symptoms, the first thing you do is actually to call so that they could take you through further checks. And the challenge, however, is that in the case of Fred Dra, one of the first persons to have recovered from COVID-19, he said when his test was taken, the samples came later, and he was told how he was positive and that they will come for him later. So he had to wait for 2 more days before they came for him finally. And so you would ask yourself the question, what happens? By the time you're waiting for them to pick you up, or you're waiting to be attended to, what happens to you while you're waiting? That is the issue. But that notwithstanding, I think that malaria has been killing a lot of Ghanaians. Not the best. Our attention so far seems to be so much on COVID-19. We need to get back to other ailments, other diseases that are killing us.
Yeah, I think something also very worrying is the immunization, because we're looking for a virus for this disease that we're fighting right now, and there are other diseases that you need to immunize yourself against. So if children are not taking it because parents feel they are not safe taking their children out there, then we have a big problem at hand. We need to change that narrative.
We have to change that narrative, Mamavi, and the fear now. I mean, if I were to ask you, Mamavi, that someone was coming home even to immunize your child, the fear is whether the person is engaged in all the safety precautions. We're talking about washing of hands with soap under running water, the usage of a hand sanitizer, and whether the person is in gloves. Now, the challenge is some people put on the gloves, they go to one place, they don't take it off, they go to another place. So there is all that fear. I think that, I am happy that we're talking about how COVID-19 is going to be a part of us. So the conversation now should be how we are able to deal with things, how we're able to go about our abnormal lives. I say abnormal because life will not be normal for us again. There will be a new normal. How we're able to go around those things in the midst of COVID-19. And so people should be, and the health minister makes a point. He says, if you can afford to buy some of these things, if you can afford to buy a mask or a Veronica bucket, buy them. Put them in your homes. Whoever comes in there, let the person wash his hands under running water and soap. Let the person sanitize before the person comes to deal with you, okay? And so, yes, immunization is key. Currently, there seems to be a lot of fear about it, but it's something we must do, but we must do while observing safety precautions.
Exactly. There's that no mask, no entry policy. Considering some people are not taking this whole thing serious, is this something that we would need law enforcement agencies, I don't know, be at the entrance of every facility and ensure that people are wearing masks, otherwise you would not allow them to enter?
Well, so yesterday we went to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. The Super Morning Show team went there, went to do some donations. Now, while we were entering, they insisted on us having our face mask on. They insisted checking our temperature, and then actually giving us sanitizers. So, it is simple. The enforcement starts with you and I. The enforcement should start with you and I. We must first of all do the right thing, because moral authority is such that if you're not doing the right thing, you have no authority to be telling the next person to do the right thing. So we will do the right thing by saying we want to put on the nose mask. Over here at Multimedia, when you come here, you have Veronica buckets, you have sanitizers, you have thermometer guns that are used to check, and you're told you need to put on face mask. So it should start from us. Everybody. If you are doing the right thing, it is only then that you can tell the next person you're not doing the right thing. If you don't do it, it is bad. But and again, we'll go back to what the health minister said when he talks about helping each other. Because there's also the challenge of, how can I buy, how do I get face mask? I do not have money, I can't get it. I don't even have a sanitizer. Government can't do everything. People should be assisting each other. If I have one and I can afford, I buy one for you, then we move on.
Absolutely. And I think what is also key is the fact that you should not try the face mask on. Once you pick it, it is yours. You can't try it, and if it doesn't fit, you give it back.
That's one thing that I'm happy has been talked about. You know, the fact that I saw something viral on social media that said that someone tried 5 of them and then eventually chose one. But having said that also, there's one thing we must do. So if you're going to buy a face mask, once you buy it, don't wear it immediately. You need to wash it before you wear it.
You need to iron it.
Iron it. If you're buying the cloth mask, just make sure that you don't put it on immediately you buy it. So, I mean, that would actually save you the stress. And once you buy it and you touch it, even before you use it, your hand sanitizers, if they're readily available, or washing of hands and with soap and running water, there is a new normal. We cannot continue going about our lives the same way and expect different results.
Do we need the assemblies to own this so that it's not coming from the center necessarily? We've had this on the national stage from the Ministry of Information, where different ministers are coming forward and speaking. But we need it to be decentralized so that there's ownership of these directives on the ground.
Exactly. I mean, as one who believes in decentralization so much, I certainly would agree with you. But we've reached a situation also where crisis communication is key. And so you must ensure that you communicate in such a way that you do not confuse people. And so you ask yourself the question, yes, there are things that assemblies can do. Assemblies can see to the distribution of Veronica buckets. They can see to the education on the need to put on face masks. So this is not something that must come from, you know, the information ministry. Well, it could, because then there's the ISD, and ISDs are in the, you know, assemblies as well. So this is what you call deconcentration, and there's delegation also. So the ISDs can then go ahead to educate people on this. And I say educate because, look, we seem to be informing people. We're not educating people. We're informing people. And the difference between information and education is that one is, okay, so I'm telling you, this is it. Do this. That's the end. But if I'm educating you, I am helping you to understand why you have to do this. And so if I understand, and the reason why we are practicing physical distancing is because we say that the virus is now aerosolized and could actually, you know, be transmitted within a certain meters. And so to be on a safer side, ensure that you're 2 meters away from the person. Wear a nose mask, wash your hands regularly, because there's the temptation to touch your face. And the virus could be on your hands, on your fingers. And if you touch your face, the virus could go into your eyes, nose, and mouth, and then eventually get into your body where the problem starts. If you understand it like this, if you are educated this way, then you go about it. So the assemblies can educate people. The assemblies, based on their budgets that they have, can actually buy some Veronica buckets and distribute to people. Okay, so the assemblies have what you normally would call the common fund, which is supposed to be used for capital expenditure, and a little bit of, you know, sometimes they borrow a bit of it for recurrent expenditure, not the best. And they have their internally generated funds, which could be used for recurrent expenditure. The challenge with the IGF now is that markets are not functioning as they should be. Some assemblies have talked about markets running shift and all of that. So when they come to the market, but that notwithstanding, you certainly will get a bit of money. The assemblies have a role to play. When it comes to the major policies, it will still be left with the central government because of the nature of the crisis we find ourselves in.
Let's also talk about results being provided in real time. We had an update today. Thank God, Noguchi says they've got 0 samples, no backlog at all, so we can begin to get results from them within 24 hours. But KCCR still has a backlog of 1,982, Winston.
Yes, KCCR, and you know, we brought this first on Thursday night when I spoke to a virologist at KCCR up front, Dr. Augustina Silverkin. She said they had a little over 8,000 at the time. They're hoping to have cleared all of it on Sunday. It didn't happen. As of this morning, we're told it's 1,982. So what that means is that our projections sometimes will be problematic. The good news, however, is that Noguchi is done with this, and I realized that Maxwell Agwagwa was asking that question. There was also the possibility of probably transferring some of these things to Noguchi so that it could quickly be done. But KCCR says they have the capacity to deal with, to test between 2,000 to 2,500 a day, you know. So that's something that can be done. That's something that can be done. So all things being equal, we're told that they are hopeful that by Thursday they would finish. They're also hopeful that by Thursday they will finish because as they are testing, there'll be new cases, new samples brought in. And we're told there are new samples every day, out of which there are positive cases every day. And those are forwarded to the Ghana Health Service. With the establishment of new testing centers, there's one in Tamale, there's a talk of one in Navrongo. The Takrady one is almost ready, we're told to be used. If you go to Ho, the University of Health and Allied Sciences also having a testing center. Once we're creating a lot of testing centers in the country, what that means is that from the northern belt, there won't be so much pressure on KCCR, and from the southern belt, there won't be too much pressure on Noguchi. When that happens, what that means is that we can now begin to test and test more through our pooling system and be able to have real-time numbers.
So we've done a little over 130,000 tests so far. That's what we've done. Our confirmed cases, 2,719, 18 deaths, 294 recovered. And from that press briefing, we know there are about 200 people who are waiting to take a second test. If it turns negative, they will be added to the figure of recoveries. 294 we have now, and that's what's on your screen. We want to wrap up with something that the FDA boss, Mimi Dako, said. You can make your own mask at home. It has to be 3 layers, but you need to check with the FDA. You need to check with the FDA, she insisted.
Yes, and that's important because of standardization and also ensuring that you're safe. I'm sure you've seen the, the candle therapy, if I could put it that way, or the candle testing. You know? And so just having a cloth in front of you is not it. You have one that is very good. And so it's important that around this time, we also do not lose fact of the advantage that people could take of this. There are some people who in their nature, they do not intend to help anybody. They're just looking at making money. That is why the FDA needs to ensure that a lot of testing is, and I'm happy that they're saying that, people should bring in there. The challenge is that, once you put it out there that, oh, you can make your mask at home, people forget the other part. So it's important we're adding the other part. You must check it up with the FDA. So don't go out there and say, the FDA says, I can make my mask at home. It says, check it with us. And that's very important.
Well, we hope we've informed and educated you enough on our situation today. Stay safe, be kind to one another, learn to share. On behalf of Winston and myself, have a good day.